work and happiness.
Farm Channel eye dwumadie sonko a ya hyeda hyehyɛ ediama obia nani agikwa adwuma enuane ene ekonkuma empuntuo. Farm Channel yi eye akonya yede abua kuaye obaye emuanyen ene esomunam ehu dwumadie a yede adwefofo afutuo ama wokua ye no etini aye efaso pii ediama wo. Access Africa any Directorate of Agriculture Extension Services, Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture, and Akabomo, Yade Farm Channel Jumedie Ebrewo, Shiami Akosia Safwa Kentibo, Asari Akoto, or Farm Channel Jumedie so, Ewa Adult TV so, Yawo Debia, a free and Menu Sia Ebrewo, Ekopino so, Prayer, Ewa 0272 148 582, and now 0241 345 024. And 0261 248 967. Yo, Omade share and SCM Makwaba at the Farm Channel Jumedie so. Ye boa amaku adwuma enkonkuma ene enuane puntuo etimiakoso. Enu tie hyiasenya na ye kuafo nkomo ene de bremu. Midin e de akosia Safwa Kentimpo Asari Akoto. Ye twa hu ne emrasisia. Salon Services Hair and Beauty Academy. E school sonko kra NVTI a register near sign amayen to me. Na ye cry international affiliation. Ye yentitie e wo formal any informal education no. Enema ye cheni bi enie hairdressing, beauty therapy, barbering, business and professional relations, apprenticeship, and commercial services.
Therefore, encourage everybody to come to the school because our motto reads that when you come with a dream, you are definitely going to live with a career.
Yegusua yeji nipa. Open one money bobia. Freyen was 0243 427 427 and 0243 561 773 and 0244 276 218. Email salonservicesacademy@gmail.com. Yashada ashishe salon shishe yepabi edi amaw. Enu ti bra na wada yeso emremu. Abusia for me sam makwa babio edi ba Farm Channel Jumedie yehia yedi nkomo edi afaku adwuma enuane ensomunam eni nkonkuma empuntuo eho. Na sene medi kan ekan ye no ene ebedi nkomo pa. Eti bomode so be yi waso na watie nkomoda ye de efri Farm Channel Jumedie so e de brewo na sa brede de bia ye tie sem eye futusem efri ekwafo chiame toni mensa abrampa ho eti enkonkoji se futu numra ye ba ye aka nyina no ye de bedam.
God will bless you. Etiefo ni Ghana fo ekwafo ni adetonfo aya mo hwe Farm Channel Jumedie ne ya oda den so yeda foforo nyankopon abo se de bia ye no Farm Channel Jumedie no de e wo multi TV so ya wa de bia no nyinu nsiane fa kosi no nson ne aye krado aye de be hyehyɛ so minu akosi a Safwa Kentimpo ni otenadwam na ohyehyɛ bibia na obonda room amansan nyina ate se de bia ye no na wotwe no ade aye ni se ye be ka about the fisheries enforcement. Nche bia no so afọ hwe nsumunam ni fisheries and aquaculture honorable Sharia Ite ode beto abonten ni oma ya tisi eye ni oma ya tisi eye ofrem central function no linya tuwa enunu nsu free hɔ a ebe sign aba the Ghana Commercial Agriculture Project. You see, production becomes complete when it gets to the final consumer. Na just ade no udua ana sepo se wo ton ade na se nipa na obeto ade na obe use na enkodi ni nsem a it is not commerce ntino wanka sa utie din na just kwan a ye nam so a Ghana agriculture no ebe ma na ye more commercial na be yakono na obi e kwa agric mo mfanye na agric se nipa o mko tuo mu nima de ana akutufo na ya agric na wo kwa agric mo nipa nim di for doctors lawyers fo nyina edo ntino emse kakra ene yenum betwetwe hu nkomo no na sede ye ne da no ye besre se dwumadie yi se mo anhwa na je se bra ye bre ni nyina na ye bragu se mo hwe so na mo nso ya so ana mo frame bi se bi sansem a na ko ye sa de no na de obi anhwa na ntie besre mo bibia won ti ase bia no ma na egu screen no so no fra ibe yi wa no fe senso se want me am mpo now send email yeso ye be ma wo muaye se de be ya de o hwe no nsa be Canada na agriculture etumpu no obia so ene atimi agikwa ye ho it is kwan obe fast for obe yiku na be yakono na be mani pa bebre so asum no mo so omotimi enyam nipa no mo de abombra na onyina bubro a Africa ni wiase afa na nyina e haya adwumi atimi aboa me atu ase nti medam ase na me de masi e ha da se ne na me boa na Yesu ama ekofo chan mbo se hu biem na kakra so a yekwa probo a yensa kan no so ye de abetudwa na manfu nyina tie damase mumoni tie adehye
asida kese enko informator ne mensa abrampa ekuafo chiame migiri se watie nsem no wafomu aba eye pa enti bomode a ese ne obetie wo ha bia no wode be ye adwuma se ne be ya yenku adwuma ensomunam eho adwuma ye ne nuane ne ade nyina no ebetimi akoyie ede ama oman Ghana enso ye to aso se wonu se da bia no ya ye de ensam krankre ede bre yetiefo eti ebraso se ye fa sa ensam krankre no ye fa no wie pa ye beje nkrato kakra bi ye ba pa ye main topic a eye gin camp no ye beka ho asem wa
I'm say who Navy for and soldier for and police for Petema and your bonnet. I'm saying and say one casamo be one and one casano say apart from one more copwa woman yana and I bisa say Argentina woman yana a chair say Nancy fishing net I do couple. I am getting. A quana a good drew and naming in a Kusian and banning in a if you a binum so a quan woman the generator, woman the copena. A binum so the carbine, and also woman the copena, binum so the dynamite, and also woman the copena. Ama a pono, I say, inti a 5 for one cassa or more, no more copua, woman yana. Inti aban I say Sanya Maya woman ye nyina no say ye twaso ye say net a ye friend monofilament net eno ye net nkitin ntokwa bia animu maye fan kopu bio wo mo a ekopu a wo mo use generator ekoso kanea wo eponu mu no so ye say wo mu njan wo so a wo de dynamite e de kopenam eno so ye see enye wo so a wo de car by battery ne nyama e de ko gu nsuo mu na ye de twenam no eno so enye nti eno nti ya hyehyɛ sɛ police for navy for BNI for ya ekuo bi a yɛfra wo mo enforcement unit na enforcement unit wo mo adwuma wo mo ya no ne sɛ wo mo be kompoano bebia yɛtwi nam no wo be hwɛ sɛ san nyema ya yabobɔ di ni nyina no wo mo ya na ne de wo net ni ye begye fi nsem na emu titu ni sɛ ye pa eno ye pa amafo cho sɛ wo mo nkrofo we a ma wo mo mfa mboba ndua mfa ya taako wo efi sɛ wo ye na ye chiwa ye no kwa kota na ni the prison a wo be ko afenso so wo mo so a wo mo ye niama emfata wo efoso no kipa bebre wo wa ya chi wo mo ye chiwa sika Ghana sika mu yedu e fine eno na wo mu tua enti ina ye hyemu ye pesa amanfo ye cheche afo say edwuma wo mo ye no ye say bia wo mo pe obi asa say me pe fisherman asam na kenu go asam ba ye nya ye stress ye nyina ye ba ye baako na ya ye edwuma no ne mo aboa wo na epo na eda ho no enam na assess wo mu no na ma na say wo mo kopoa wo mu nya nam no say ye jai san nyama ni nyina afi epo no ebetumi eyiri a enam papa bebe mu a wo mankasa wo menya nam afi so wo ma asitire no asesa Into an pay, share, and say, Nkɔfoɔ no ba na yɛsrɛ wɔn mmɔba ne nkranteɛ ne nneɛma wɔn de ataako ma wɔn yɛ wɔn gyae ne nyinaa ɛnyɛ.
Salon Services Hair and Beauty Academy. A school sonko kra NVTI a register near sign amayen to me. Na ye kra international affiliation. Ye yetitie e wo formal any informal education. Enema ye cheni bi enie hairdressing, beauty therapy, barbering, business and professional relations, apprenticeship, and commercial services.
Therefore, encourage everybody to come to the school because our motto reads that when you come with a dream, you are definitely going to live with a career.
Yegusua yeji nipa. Open one money bobia. Freyen was 0243 427 427 and 0243 561 773 and 0244 276 218. Email salonservicesacademy@gmail.com. Yashada ashishe salon shishe yepabi edi amau. Enuti bra na wada yeso emremu. Yo, ebusiafo fan channel esuni. Afe yenko yasempa ene mede atopono so a eye GCAP Ghana Commercial Agriculture Project. Eye de nhihye eye ehihye pa Ghana ban ene USAID akambo mu a womode aba ede beboa se ne be ya ye ku adwuma ebetimi akoyie ne nyina ne se akuafo a ye wo enkran ene ne mpotamo ena afe sada zone ni nyina no ye betimi ede hihye pa bi ato ho no mu a wom dwumadi ahoto a womudie efa ku adwuma ho no ye betimi aton ana ebeye kese de ka ne commercial agriculture no ebetimi akoso yie eno nti ene ede Ghana Commercial Agriculture Project ana se GCAP ehihye no etimi aba na sebe ya hye betimi akoyie nti no yate abedwako eye committee bia ye de ahye wo monsa na committee na adwuma wo be ne sen ene say wo mafom ho ewo ku adwuma mu ti se asase wuranom ene akuafo nyina no sa committee ne be ye entemgyinafo na wagina wo montam etise kobane se kuani bi e pasase a na committee na bam ho abepasase ne bi e de ama kuani no anasa kobane se asase wura bi kura so pekuani bi de na asase ama no a na committee na bam na cheso no so kopekuani no amana ba gya asase no na wasimi e de ayekua no ama ho faso so etimi aba eno itomu dwuma wo be ya ne so wo be ye entemgyinafo e de ama stakeholders anasa wo mo a wo ho ehye commercial agriculture emu na committee ne yapa wontoma e de omadwuma ahye monsa yeko na yeko hwensem ne bi.
Minister Honorable Fifi Kwete, I sincerely welcome all of you to this very important function. It is a very important function because the Ministry's project, Ghana Commercial Agriculture Project, is also very important for the operations of the sector, the agricultural sector in this country. It is a project that is intended to introduce and firm up commercial agriculture in this country. And by commercial agriculture, we are actually not talking of scale of production. We are talking about commercial attitude to agricultural production, and that is what GCAP is supposed to disseminate. Now GCAP will do this through the outgrower system, which of necessity will have to adopt the public-private partnership approach. It could even be private-public partnership approach, or themselves alone. Now, we are interested in this approach as a country because it is a means of actually leveraging investment capital from all sectors. It is also because of the realization that government cannot continue to do direct investment in agriculture because it has often done and failed. So this project is actually to instill private sector attitude to agriculture in this country. And it is starting to do that in 2 ecological zones of the country. That is the northern upper east and upper west regions, the northern parts of Brong Ahafo and the northern parts of Volta region. They usually will call these areas the SADA zone, the Savannah Accelerated Development Authority Zone. Now, it also, as a project, will be working in the greater Accra and Volta regions. They call it the Accra Plains. They extend deep into the Volta and Eastern region. And the peak of its operation that we expect is a 150,000 hectare irrigation project, all through the PPP, process. Now, in the course of doing this, lands would have to be arranged for these projects. Farmers will have to be grouped. Farmers will have to be put on those lands. Projects will have to be put on the lands, including irrigation projects and so on. And in most developing countries, land is becoming a sore point. And we agreed that we have to find a way of expeditiously handling such issues which may come from time to time. They may not only be land problems, they could even be disputes between groups, or disputes between partners, or disputes between government and them. These, we think, because agricultural processes are time-bound, productivity is also time-bound, we should find a very swift approach to addressing those issues. Swift but amicable, and indeed sustainable solutions are important for this kind of operation. We know the courts are there for these purposes. We also are aware the courts are already overburdened. So we thought that this would be a process that could facilitate the system a little faster. So we got in touch with the Judicial Service, who also put in place, a training program for you through the Judicial Training Institute. And I understand the committee has gone through this training successfully. It is this committee that we intend to inaugurate today and set it into action. What our plea is that matters will come up for the committee to resolve. We plead that members of the committee should willingly and at all times agree, to be empaneled, so that these issues are addressed swiftly. I also would want to plead with the project implementation unit. You will need to resource the committee appropriately if we require, fast outputs from the committee. And you should do that with very little bureaucracy. This ministry is very happy you have accepted to play this role, on this flagship project of MOFA. I thank you very much, and I wish you really very well.
The Ghana Commercial Agriculture Project is a World Bank USAID funded project. that will cost the state $145 million for 5 years, 2012-2017. Now, we are envisaging that as we go to the field and provide funding for players, farmers who will then in turn support outgrowers, there could be issues of conflict between communities and investors. There could be conflict between even community members, could be conflict between traditional authorities and community members. And so what we have done this morning is to set up a committee and swear it in that will see to resolving those issues using alternative dispute resolution methodologies such as negotiation and mediation. So we've just won in the committee this morning. What we have done is to get a wide stakeholder group to form the committee, and we provided adequate capacity building training for them just last October. We are hoping to build on this training sometime in April next year. So with all the capacity building and all the resources that we'll make available to the committee, I'm sure that they'll be up and doing, and that any issues that crop up in the course of project implementation, they should be able to deal with it. I don't really envisage any difficulties in the work that they're going to do in the field. The major thing, agric and every investment depends on land. So the major challenge is how do we get fragmented farms, farm owners to pull their lands together that they can use that and negotiate with investors who will then use this large-scale farming to support just not the nucleus farms but also the outgrowers. A second challenge has to do with the low literacy level of the outgrowers who are supposed to be working under the nucleus farmers. You know that many of our farmers are illiterate and they are not very well exposed to a lot of the modern technologies that promote agricultural farming. A third conflict has to do with the different land users. You have people who own cattle and animals for that matter who want to use the land for grazing. And we have farmers who want to, crop farmers who want to also do cropping. Sometimes there are a whole lot of conflicts between who uses what land and why somebody's animals will go into my farm and destroy my crops. So these are some of the three major challenges. Beyond that, as human beings, sometimes people have their egos and it can be very difficult dealing with them in the field. First of all, in the Accra Plains and also in the SADA zone, what we have done is to get a consulting firm to go into communities and do what we call community engagement. And the engagement will involve all kinds of stakeholders. And these are the issues that we're talking about. I mean, how do we ensure that every stakeholder in the use of the land understands their role? How do we set aside grazing lands for farmers? How do we get, how do you call it, paddocks for farmers to graze their animals on? And then how do we ensure that those who are crop farmers also have lands that will not be affected by this cattle grazing? So in all, I'll say that, the community engagement, if it is very effective, should be able to get all stakeholders to understand how we can use the land in the communities without necessarily creating any conflict between all the land using groups.
Finally, your advice to the public or the farmers out there?
That's Ghana Commercial Agric.
abusiafo ene asem no ene da ho no committee na ya pa wo mo ese wo mo hwe Jacob enhyehyɛ ne so no ene ada ho dwumadie ede a kyerɛ wo no na enyina mpaebo ene agidie ne sɛ committee betimi aye adwuma ede aboa ama Jacob eye Ghana Commercial Agriculture Project no etimi aye adwuma na fa so panso etimi aba wo so ene so ha ene de farm channel dwumadie no esi migiri sɛ aye nhira ede amawo na sɛ wo adwadie bibia wo ya opese bo ho dawo ede ma wo no mo ne sɛ wo ne farm channel abadwafo ye bedi nkomo ye beba abehwe wo ne ma no ye beba ho dawo amawo ama wiase ama nyina ahunie ekoso no mafo nso atimi atɔ ne awoton anase wadwade ahodo a obeba ho dawo no entu betimi afrɛ yɛn e wo 0272 148582 0272 148582 and I say 0241 345024 0241 345024 na yenye oso afi wo pe amanebo bia e de afa farm channel dwumedie ho a fresa number si ye betie na ye no mienu nyina ya dwedwe Ghana kwadwuma enuane ensomnam yie ene ekrokuma emputu eho na mfaso pa bi so atimi afiso e de abre afei program yi obetimi asan ahwe e wo YouTube so e ye farm channel Ghana na ya ka nyina no obetimi asan ahwe bio e wo ho no nyame ya adoma dasene mayehia medin e de akosua safo a kentimpo asare agoto hwe ho so yi
our best. We will give our best to beautiful Ghana.